What is coding? Well, let's break it down into 3 fundamental steps that you need to know for any coding language. Number 1, what is it in a literal sense? Number 2, how does it work? And number 3, how do you use it? Let's get started. So, what exactly is coding? Well, I like to think of it as a language where instead of using words and spelling, we use syntax. The syntax helps the computers understand what's happening. You see, computers use a certain type of language called machine language, which is in binary, which is that code with the zeros and the ones. Now, binary on its own we can understand, but machine language is constantly moving and really complex, so you would require both a very good understanding of code and quantum mechanics, funnily enough. So people invented these higher levels of code, and it's essentially just broken down English. With the use of a compiler, certain tool software developers can use that will convert this broken down English into machine code. Those same developers can have their lives be so much easier instead of learning machine code. And this is where coding languages come in. The coding languages are stuff that people created to feed into a compiler to make the computer do things by turning it into machine code. Some examples of coding languages would be C, C++, C#, Python, JavaScript, and HTML. Now, some of those names you might have heard before, like C, JavaScript, or HTML, and some of them might be a little more out of the way, like C# or Python. Like, when I first heard Python, I thought of a snake person, because pythons are snakes. So let's dive into that. The term C comes from the fact that the specific coding language uses a lot of the C directory-based files. Now, the C directory in a computer is where all of your files are stored. The coding language of C manipulated those files a lot more than others. Now, C++ and C# are just variations of C that have some more complex terms for more advanced people. Now, Python, funnily enough, is called Python because the guy who was creating it was watching a Monty Python at the time when he finished it. JavaScript is called JavaScript because it is the scripting version of a more complex and harder to understand coding language known as Java, which was named Java because someone was drinking coffee while they were making it, I imagine. And then HTML is the only real logical one here. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which is just fancy words for making pictures on the screen. So, to show the power of these languages, we'll use an example of a list. We'll say that this list is comprised of 4, 8, and 16. Now, let's say that the only way to get these numbers is with their equations. Now, if I were using something like Google Docs or Microsoft Word, then when I type that, it doesn't give me 4, it gives me 2 plus 2. But with coding, you can change that pretty simply. So if I set this integer, which is a variable, and we'll call this 1, and we'll make it equal 2. And let's just do that again for the others. It's like, well, if this one be 4, and then 3 will equal 8. So then now, down here, if I make this display me a list, and then I put 1 plus 1. Now you might be thinking, that doesn't make any sense. And then 2 plus 2. Whoops, I put a P there. Now, what you might be thinking is, well, this doesn't make any sense. How would 1 plus 1 equal 4? Well, how it works is I named the integer of 1, I made that 2. So then when I do 1 plus 1, rather than coming out with 2, it comes out with 4. Because rather than taking these as the numbers that they are, it takes them as the numbers that they're listed as. But let's say that I wanted to display just the equation. I could still do that with the power of coding. I could just display 2 plus 2. Or if I wanted to display both, then 1 plus 1. And that's just the beauty of coding, that you can get what you want, and the only real limitation is your mind, and of course the power of your computer. But those are both things that you can overcome. Like, for instance, with your mind, you could just learn new things, or you could get help from others. And if your computer, even if you have a top-of-the-line computer, in a couple years, there will be a new, better one that can do more. And it's just so amazing how coding can do this. Now, there's a pretty big chance that I've lost most of you with all those fancy words like algorithms and hypertext markup language, but I'm about to bring it all back with our good old friend, the onion. But this is not just any old onion. This onion is a metaphor for coding. Coding is a lot like an onion in the sense that when you take off the outer peel, it gets so much easier to do everything. So let's think of learning how to use algorithms as the outer peel of the onion. In order to eat an onion, if you want to eat it raw, you have to take off the outer peel, and it's the same with coding. If I wanted to learn JavaScript, I would probably start with C++, because it covers all those algorithms and variable manipulation in really easy terms. Then, when I want to move to JavaScript, I would understand those better for the more complex platform. But coding isn't just about lines of code and being able to do things. It's about working with other people from other genres of art. Like when you code to make pretty much any program, you have to work with people who do design, people who do good graphics, which is technically design but different, and people who can make your code look nice, and most importantly, people who know more than you about what coding is. You will never know the most about coding. It's just a fact. So that's why you need to work with other people. Like, if I were to get a job in JavaScript, I might be told all these terms that I didn't know. And other people around me could help me. And I would need that help to get through the job. So if you're new to coding, don't worry. There are abundant resources available to help you learn and grow your skills. Learning how to code doesn't need to take up years. You don't need experience. You can learn in a day if you want, since those years of experience are helpful. So even if you come and watch one of our lessons, and you learn the very basics, like how to make the screen say something, if you ever decide to come back and learn more, you'll just be able to understand it so much better. So, I hope you all learned a lot from this video, and we'll see you next time.